Hey YouTube fans, Eric in the garden this evening. It's actually a nice evening, so I'm trying to finish up some weeding. It's a little disheartening to be working on some beds and then a week or so later the other ones fill in. So I've got to get some pine straw down, maybe even do a little roundup in between the beds. I hate doing that because like tomatoes that you see in the back, roses are super sensitive to Roundup. You certainly don't want to get any on them or anywhere near them. But you can see the bed's looking pretty good. Got some zinnias there. Those are actually from last year. I had a flower bed there, so I'm going to transplant those somewhere else. But this is the last bed to get to, and then since I started with this one, more weeds have cropped back up. So I'm going to have to get rid of those. Point of this video though, it's going to be about sports. What is a sport? A sport is a genetic mutation of a rose. Usually it's a color change. It could be a difference in maybe the number of prickles or thorns, but the one on the left is Zach Noble's. Here in our intense heat that we have in North Carolina and more the sunshine, it's kind of a lighter or pinkish or orangish rose than other areas. Other areas it's more of an orange rose. I'll get to that in a second. But the original is Let Freedom Ring, and that's one on the right. Have some real beautiful blooms here. This is Let Freedom Ring. The color does not do it justice on this video. I'm looking with the naked eye and it's just not showing up as good as it should. But that's a nice red rose. Very, very long canes. Fairly disease resistant. But I think one of the noticeable things is the canes are very long. You can see that one right there. Very, very long. So you get nice single blooms. Not a lot of sprays on this rose, and what that means is, notice I haven't really deadheaded or done anything with the blooms. Notice they're all single to a cane. You contrast that with, let me see if I can get over here. I know these need to be deadheaded. You contrast that with something like Gemini, lots of sprays, and then something like over here, Crystalline, a lot of sprays. Jewel Grace, a lot of sprays. And what that means is, again, multiple blooms per stem. So if you don't disbud it, that's what you're going to get. Here's the sport of Let Freedom Ring. Let's see if I can find a good bloom here. You can tell the color difference. Again, in our neck of the woods, it's more of a light pink orange color, and cooler areas, different climates in the country, this is more of an orange rose. But you can see similar form, similar growth habit. A lot of times the sport ends up being not quite as vigorous, and you can see that on the right, Let Freedom Ring is just slightly taller than the sport, which is Zach Noble's. So again, that's what a sport is, a genetic mutation. If you have a red rose and all of a sudden on one of the canes the color is different, if you take the cane and root it, and you're able to get a plant that is rooted and the color remains the same, we call that being a stable sport. You have a sport. It's a similar growth habit, similar leaves, but in that case the color is totally different. Unfortunately, my moonstone died over the winter, so I've got to reorder that. But I have a sport as well, and it's not my sport, but a sport of moonstone is Marlin's Day. I think that was found by Fred Wright. Hopefully I'm right on that. No pun intended on that. So you can see very, very similar to moonstone. That's a gorgeous bloom right there. I haven't done anything, spraying, cutting, disbudding. I don't do too much in the summer, but it has a little bit more pink in it than moonstone. But again, that sport of moonstone, you can see the leaves are very, very similar. I have noticed with Marlin's Day and just a lot of sports in general, they just don't seem to grow as tall. With that Zach Noble's, it's pretty close to Let Freedom Ring, but it is a little shorter. My Marlin's Day has always been shorter than the moonstone, so that's very interesting. And by comparison, Crystalline is a parent to moonstone, so the one on the left is Crystalline, so that has some lineage to this Marlin's Day, and you can see that the Crystalline is taller. So sports tend to be, at least in my experience, they are not as vigorous oftentimes, and the main difference is the coloring of the rose if it's a color sport. But again, you can tell these leaves have moonstone lineage in it because they are very leather, like a leather kind of texture to them, very similar to the parent, which is Crystalline. So the video today was on sports. I'll leave you with last couple images of the garden. This is Hot Princess is looking really good. My Randy Scott, just an amazing amount of white blooms. That's doing really well. And another one, again, I keep mentioning this, Mr. Caleb. This was hybridized in the Carolinas, so perhaps why it's doing so well. I certainly have to do some deadheading. And this, unlike Let Freedom Ring, it is a red rose like Freedom Ring, Let Freedom Ring, but this is what I mean about sprays. So this is one cane, has multiple blooms on it. Here's another single cane, multiple blooms on it. So if you don't want that, you're gonna want to take out the side buds so that you don't get sprays. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, just check out one of the videos below where I talk about disc budding to get more single bloom or single cane roses. So that's it. The video today, again, about sports. I'll leave you with that. On the left, Zach Nobles. On the right, Let Freedom Ring. Same growth habit. One is red, which is the original, and the sport orange, depending on where you live. Here in the intense sun of the Carolinas, can be a lighter orangish pink once it develops. Comment below, do you have any sports in your garden? What are some of your favorite ones? I know we have a lot of them that have been popular in the past in rose exhibiting. Have a great evening, everybody.